After Reconstruction, Episode 2. How did Reconstruction give way to Jim Crow? In 1877, Reconstruction officially came to an end. Federal troops withdrew from much of the former Confederacy. Southern Democrats, who called themselves Redeemers, regained control of state governments. And many Americans, especially in the North, were ready to declare the nation reunited. But reunion came at a terrible cost. The constitutional promises of Reconstruction remained. The 13th Amendment had abolished slavery. The 14th Amendment had established citizenship and equal protection under the law. The 15th Amendment had prohibited denying the vote because of race. Yet across the South, those rights were increasingly ignored, weakened, or violently taken away. Reconstruction did not disappear in a single moment, and Jim Crow did not appear fully formed overnight. The transition from Reconstruction to Jim Crow occurred gradually over several decades. During Reconstruction, African American men voted, held public office, served on juries, established schools, and participated in new state governments. These achievements represented one of the most dramatic expansions of democracy in American history. But they also produced a powerful backlash. White supremacist organizations used intimidation, murder, and political terrorism to restore white democratic control. Groups such as the Ku Klux Klan attacked black voters, teachers, ministers, office holders, and white Republicans. Federal laws temporarily weakened some of this violence. However, enforcement depended upon political will. By the 1870s, that will was fading. Many Northern voters became more concerned with economic problems, political corruption, and sectional reconciliation than with protecting black civil rights in the South. The Panic of 1873 deepened that shift. As the nation entered a severe economic depression, support for continued federal intervention declined. The disputed presidential election of 1876 accelerated the collapse of Reconstruction. Republican Rutherford B. Hayes and Democrat Samuel J. Tilden both claimed victory. A political agreement eventually awarded the presidency to Hayes. Soon afterward, remaining federal troops were withdrawn from Louisiana and South Carolina. Without sustained federal protection, Redeemer governments consolidated their power. At first, these governments did not always eliminate black voting through openly racial laws. The 15th Amendment made that difficult. Instead, they relied upon violence, fraud, economic pressure, and selective enforcement of existing laws. Black farmers who attempted to vote could lose employment, credit, land, or access to local merchants. Ballot boxes disappeared. Votes were altered. Political organizers were threatened or killed. Economic control also became essential. Sharecropping and tenant farming replaced slavery as the dominant agricultural labor systems across much of the South. These systems did not recreate slavery exactly, but they often trapped black families and many poor white families in cycles of debt and dependency. At the same time, Southern states expanded convict leasing. The 13th Amendment had abolished slavery except as punishment for a crime. That exception allowed states to lease prisoners to mines, plantations, railroads, and private businesses. Because black men were arrested disproportionately under vague or selectively enforced laws, convict leasing became another means of controlling black labor. Historical thinking. This transition raises an important historical question. Did Reconstruction fail, or was it overthrown? Calling Reconstruction a failure can make its collapse appear inevitable. But Reconstruction created public schools, expanded democracy, produced new state constitutions, and established constitutional protections that remain central to American law. Its opponents understood exactly what those achievements meant. That is why they worked so aggressively to destroy them. Jim Crow developed not because African Americans were unprepared for citizenship, but because white supremacists used political power, economic pressure, legal restrictions, and violence to limit that citizenship. In our next episode, we will examine how Southern states turned racial control into law. We will explore poll taxes, literacy tests, grandfather clauses, segregation statutes, and the court decisions that allowed Jim Crow to become deeply rooted in American life. Because Reconstruction had ended, but the struggle over freedom, citizenship, and democracy was far from over.